because...
I don't even mind if a demo would be in the middle of the game, as long as it makes sense and it's, like, isolated enough that it's not, like, taking away from your experience playing the game by spoilers.
Right.
For instance. But a prologue, you could almost do, like, takes place before the events of the game.
Alex, recently we had a whole thing we did where we went to Steam, and there was this whole demo thing that they do periodically. I think you're familiar with it. Game Fest. Game Extravaganza. No, okay, never mind.
Next Fest.
It's called Next Fest, yeah. And so when we did that, we played a whole bunch of demos, and we started to get into a conversation that I wanted to just touch upon again, which is the idea of demos and prologues. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes games will not have a demo, but will have like separate pages that are a prologue that is essentially like a free, smaller version of the game. Sometimes it's just like the actual opening sequence that could kind of stand in for the demo, or it can be like a piece that's trying to explain the game to you in like a smaller setting. And I wanted to talk about, like, pros and cons of this, just in general. Like, why would somebody want to do this? What is the reasoning behind it? And your thoughts on it. Have you played any, like, prologues recently as opposed to demos themselves?
Not recently enough that I can remember what I've done, but I have definitely played a prologue or two.
Okay. So I had one interesting experience that happened, and coming off of Next Fest, this is kind of important, which was there was a game, I know that you tried it yourself, called Ale and Tail Tavern.
I did not.
No? I think you put some time into it, and you might just not remember.
Clayton might have tried it.
It's a game where you actually open up your own tavern, and you sweep the floors, and you serve ale.
Oh! Okay, no, yes, I remember that now. I'm sorry.
I figured I just needed to refresh your memory. I
was thinking, like, Tavern Master, where you're, like, top-down third-person doing it.
Yeah.
This is one where you're
first person. Yeah, it's first person, and it's that kind of, like, cartoony kind of art style that they have for it. But, neat concept. The demo was fine. And I played that demo during Next Fest, and they said during that time that there was going to be a prologue coming up for soon. It's called First Pints. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be interested to see what that is. So I got the prologue when it came out shortly after Next Fest, and I tried that too. And I could tell you, having played both of them, they're the same thing. They really are just the same thing. The prologue is basically now the stand-in for the demo instead of having the demo there. Which I don't think you can access anymore. So you have a prologue, which basically is a stand-in for the demo and does the same stuff. Pretty much right down, like the whole thing, like from start to finish, as far as I can tell, it's basically the same stuff. So, in that particular case, I think the reason why they wanted to do the prologue is so that it was like a separate product from the main game when they eventually released that, so that the demo wasn't up anymore. And so that they could keep the prologue as something separated from it, but in some ways kind of get around the idea of still having the demo there, which is fine. But then again, I've also played some prologues that I could tell you are not from the beginning of the game. They might actually be far more into the middle of it. Black Book was an example that I would give, where I played the prologue piece, which is supposed to be telling you more or less the general story of what Black Book is, but also does not start in the same place as the main game itself. There are some examples of games where the prologue will just be the first level, though. Or the demo will essentially be the first level. And I can claim this from something like Thief. Because recently when I got bored, and also when I didn't have internet or power and I was working off of a generator, I had very limited options to game. And so one thing I decided to do was play what was essentially the demo of Thief 2016, a game I have played through completely twice. So I didn't really need to play the demo. And I was like, oh, the demo is just the first level of the game.
I enjoy when prologues are kind of their own thing, like their own just tutorial
Yes.
level. Maybe that's not included in the base game, so then you get a reason to play the prologue. Um, but I also enjoy either a demo or a prologue that is a tutorial on how to play the game, so that I can understand that. Then, same reason I like demos in general is give me a bit of the game to let me know if I'm going to like this game.
Yeah. Exactly. I want to know if I want to like this game. I need to know how to play it, but I also need a reason to say, hey, ooh, wow, this was really cool. I got to figure out, if I can play this full thing when it comes out. I have to really feel attached to the game itself, which, unfortunately, during Steam Next Fest, I didn't really feel all that attached to a lot of the things I played. But, but that is what you hope for, and a prologue can be a little bit more of this is lead up into what you're going to be doing in the main game. At least in theory, I usually conceptualize it that way, but I feel like it usually gets to just be a stand-in for a demo that gets to be a standalone thing that just kind of represents the demo as a promotional piece. But I definitely have seen some examples of like prologues that tried to do that whole thing where it's like this is lead up to the game itself, or it's its own little thing, where you can kind of enjoy it that way. Demos are almost always from the game itself, and usually demos will start at the beginning of the game, and not in the middle, not in anything like that, not during an actual mission, because
I don't even mind if a demo would be in the middle of the game, as long as it makes sense and it's like isolated enough that it's not like taking away from your experience playing the game by spoilers,
right.
for instance. But a prologue, you could almost do like takes place before the events of the game
Sure.
in a lot of cases, and I think that'd be fun.
I would have liked to see like a prologue for like Another Crab's Treasure. I remember playing the demo for it, and what they did is they basically took the first opening episode or level, and then they also had another piece that was a level 3 or 4 sections into the game, so that you could experience something a little bit higher level. But it would be kind of great to see Krill before he gets his shell taken away, just like maybe learning the basic mechanics when he's, before he has to go on his whole adventure. That would be kind of a neat thing. Just to kind of like explain some of the mechanics and the basic ideas, and maybe have a little thing all to itself, so that you'd always have a reason to play that anyway, and maybe have something to do with that. Here's something else that I thought was interesting when we were playing Next Fest, and I don't know if you experienced this, but there were some of those demos that were out there, and I think the prologue, like for Ale and Tail, also had this, where there were actual achievements. We talked a little bit about that, but like even the prologues had some achievements to them. Mostly just a side note, but I thought, like, that's not something you usually expect from a demo.
Yeah, I think there was one where it's like, yes, you played the demo. Good job. That's the only achievement.
I like the idea of a prologue. It can be a stand-in for a demo, but I would really like to see them be more of their own thing if you're going to do that. Otherwise, it can just be like just seen as a tutorial or something like that. There's a lot of games that could really use prologues, especially bigger RPGs and stuff like that, which could benefit from it. I could see like Cyberpunk really benefiting from something like a prologue, like before you get to Night City, or just to kind of get the basics of like your...
yeah, you could easily just be like, here's a character, pick one of 3, and then do that as a tutorial, or even just one character.
Yeah.
Maybe you die at the end of the prologue in Cyberpunk. That would actually be thematically fine.
You could even have a scenario where you're not playing V, but you're playing another character that's integral to the storyline later on that never appears. Yeah.
That's kind of what I meant. It's not you die as V, but like if it's prologue, you're playing a different character.
You're playing a different character, and that might have something directly to the storyline. We're basically Rogue One-ing this, is what it meant.
Yeah, maybe you're playing a different character that gets killed by Jackie.
You get killed by Jackie, yeah, exactly. And then that happens, and you're like, oh, who was that guy that walked away? And that would be a really neat idea about, like, stuff that you could do that would expand upon the lore a little bit, and also provide something for fans, but also people that are interested in the game itself, because now you're introducing elements to the story would be like, oh, how is this actually related to what happens in the main game, maybe get you a little bit used to some of the characters. And I think that this works a lot better with more epic RPG kind of things, because for a lot of times when you're just doing like a survival game or something like that, or a farming sim or life sim, they'll just start you off in the world. But epic RPGs are kind of hard to cordon off in that same way, or to limit in terms of your size, because they're usually big open world with lots of different things in it, so finding like small spaces that are representative of that world is hard to do. So it would make sense to like create a purpose-built smaller area, or a running theme, like a linear piece, to kind of get people used to the actual game mechanics of what you're doing. I think that in some cases the prologues are a thing where you can actually like rate them, like they can actually get like ranked and reviewed and stuff, which demos can't. Maybe that's the reason why they wanted to do it. I'm looking at Ale and Tail Tavern First Pints, which again is just basically the prologue that was the same thing as the demo. It has reviews. It is reviewed overwhelmingly positive, with 1,550 reviews on there now, since it was released in June 20th. So it has indeed gotten those. It does indeed have like written reviews from people themselves. This would be something that was not on the demo. So this would absolutely be something that I'm sure they thought would be beneficial to them, to get positive feedback for the game when it comes out, as its like own thing. So there might actually be a reason why you want to do prologues in terms of just the marketing strategy behind this, so that you can get positive feedback that is actually logged in on Steam, to drum up more attention for the game itself when it comes to
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to a demo. So, because the demos can't get reviewed. I think we've already kind of established that. So yeah, prologues are an interesting space where they kind of serve as a demo, but they're also kind of supposed to be their own product that is apart from the main product. So I don't really know. I feel like they need to have better definition as to what they're supposed to be, because I think most of the time people are just throwing the word prologue on things that are supposed to be examples of the game. Demos are pretty straightforward, just because I know that it's like, oh, you're just going to show me a part of the game so I can get used to the mechanics of it. If you have some ideas about what the prologue to Total Pebble Knockdown would be, let us know in the comments down below.
That was Delve.
Delve was the prologue to Total Pebble Knockdown. There were 300 episodes of that. You can go and listen to it somewhere. Anyway, the point of the matter is, we've already done our prologue. You tell us if you've played any prologues, if you thought that they did something interesting and unique with that format that you would not normally get from a demo. You can tell us about that in the comments down below.